It's been over half a century since humanity first stepped onto another world. What an incredible moment, right? It's just burned into our collective memory. Well, today we are right on the edge of a brand new era of lunar exploration. So we're going to break down that whole journey from the legendary Apollo program all the way to the ambitious Artemis missions and really get into how and why going back to the moon this time is a completely different ballgame. It's a totally fair question, isn't it? You might be thinking, been there, done that. But the answer really gets to the heart of a massive shift in why we explore it all. See, Apollo was all about winning a race. Artemis, on the other hand, is about learning how to stay. So, to really get what's happening now, we've got to rewind the clock. The Apollo program wasn't just born out of some pure love for science. No, it was forged in the fires of the Cold War. This was an absolute high-stakes geopolitical sprint to prove who had the technological edge. And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? Back in 1961, President Kennedy laid down this incredibly clear, bold, and time-crunched goal. It was a direct gauntlet thrown down to the Soviet Union. The point wasn't to build a lunar colony. The point was to get there first. Period. The key thing to remember here is that Apollo was designed with an end date. The number one goal was political victory. The whole focus was on flags and footprints. Get up there, plant the flag, get some cool photos, and come home safe. It took this unbelievable national effort. And once that goal was hit, once 12 men had walked on the moon, that was it. The program wrapped up. Okay, so let's jump back to today. If Apollo was a flat-out sprint, then Artemis is a marathon. It is a completely different philosophy, and it's driven by a whole new set of goals that are all about the long term, about science, and crucially, about working together. Now, just compare that Kennedy quote to this one from NASA. The words they use, man, they tell the whole story. You hear things like safe, peaceful, and for all of humanity. That signals this monumental shift away from a national race and toward a truly global mission. So, what's Artemis really all about? Well, the goal isn't just to visit, it's to stay. We are talking about setting up a permanent human outpost on the moon. Why? To do some incredible science, to build out infrastructure, and, this is the big one, to use the moon as a test bed, a training ground, for the next giant leap, sending people to Mars. All right, now for the main event. Let's put these two epic programs side by side and really dig into the nitty-gritty. We're talking everything from why we're going to the tech that gets us there and the people who are making the journey. The biggest difference, hands down, is the why. Apollo was a show of force in a world split in two. Its success was pretty simple. Did we beat the other guy? Artemis, though, is all about science and exploration. Success here is going to be measured by what we discover, the tech we invent, and whether we can actually learn to live and work on another world. Okay, and you know what really tells the story here? The money. Just look at this. Apollo got this insane surge of funding. At its peak, it was the equivalent of about $42 billion a year today. It was funded like a war effort. No joke. Artemis, on the other hand, has a more modest but steady budget of around $6 billion a year. It perfectly shows that shift from a short, intense sprint to a long, steady marathon. And of course, the tech is just on another level now. The Space Launch System, or SLS, that's the backbone of Artemis. It's the most powerful rocket NASA has ever built. It actually has more thrust than the legendary Saturn V. And the Orion capsule, it's a huge upgrade too. It can carry more astronauts for way longer missions than the old Apollo command module ever could. And this right here is maybe one of the biggest, most important changes. The Apollo astronauts were all American men, almost all of them military test pilots. But the Artemis crews, they actually reflect the world we live in today. I mean, look at the Artemis II crew. You've got Christina Koch, the first woman to go on a lunar mission, Victor Glover, the first person of color, and Jeremy Hansen, the first non-American. This is exploration that finally looks like all of us. And that idea of bringing everyone to the table, that diversity we see in the crew, it actually goes all the way down to the very foundation of the program. Artemis is being defined by a level of teamwork, both with other countries and private companies, that would have been just unthinkable back in the Apollo days. And the playbook for all this teamwork is something called the Artemis Accords. The easiest way to think about it is like a set of rules of the road for space. It's basically a series of agreements between countries to make sure that as we go out and explore the moon and beyond, we're all doing it peacefully, safely, and with total transparency. And we're not talking about a handful of countries here. As of early 2026, 61 nations have signed on. This isn't just some nice mission statement. It's a genuine global pact. It's creating a unified coalition for exploring the moon that is truly unprecedented in all of human history. Okay, so that's the why and the who. Now for the how. With all these goals and partners in place, how are we actually getting back there? Let's take a look at the step-by-step plan that NASA's laid out. It's very deliberate, very phased. The roadmap is really clear and methodical. So Artemis I, that was the big uncrewed test flight back in 2022. It was a huge success. Next up in 2026 is Artemis II, which will be the first crewed flyby. Then in 2027, Artemis III is all about testing the new lunar landers, but in Earth orbit. And all of that paves the way for the big one, Artemis IV in 2028, the first time humans will land on the moon in over 50 years. And from that point on, the missions get more frequent, and we start actually building a permanent base. Now, what I think is so cool is that even though the goals are brand new, NASA is bringing back what it calls an Apollo mindset to how they do things. What does that mean? It means they are absolutely obsessed with safety, with testing every single component and taking these careful incremental steps. They're basically using the lessons of the past to build a much safer, more reliable future in space. So when you put it all together, what does it all mean? Well, this isn't just Apollo Part 2. Artemis is truly the beginning of a whole new chapter, not just for exploring the moon, but really for humanity's entire future out there in the cosmos. And this right here is the ultimate takeaway. We have moved way beyond flags and footprints. The new ambition, the new dream, is to build a permanent, sustainable foothold off-world. The moon isn't the final destination anymore. It's our first base camp on the long road to Mars. When you think about it, the Apollo missions proved that we could do it, that we could visit another world. But the Artemis program, it's trying to answer a much, much bigger question. Can we actually learn to live there? And as we take these incredible next steps, it just makes you wonder, what giant leaps will come after this?